Hey guys, this is Truth and Lies here. I'm Ian.
I'm Ryan.
So we're here with EDMProd. We're going to be doing a 1 hour build from scratch. We're going to be making a brand new tune from nothing. We used to make deep house stuff, and before that we were making some trap stuff and like moonbaton. So we've done a whole bunch of different kinds of music, but today we're going to be doing a 1 hour tech house build from scratch. Let's get it. Cool, so let's get started. Before we actually begin writing the stuff, we want to show you a little bit about how we organize Ableton and how we have everything set up. So first of all, we use a template, and that's pretty important. As you can see on the right, when we load in the new track, it loads in with our kick channel already in there. It loads in with the drum group that have extra drums. So we already have pre-named, pre-colored, pre-set tracks and groups so that it takes a little less time to get set up. I mean, it doesn't take very long to make new tracks or rename them, but if you consider you're making 10,000 songs over the course of your career, and each time it takes 5 seconds to label and make a new track, that's a lot of time you've saved up over the course of a whole career. So any little things you could do with DAWs that you can automate or make things easier for yourself, I highly recommend.
Another thing too is along with just the channels here, each channel when we upload a new audio channel, you'll see it comes already with an EQ and utility on it, so we don't have to do that. You can do that same thing for MIDI channels as well. Ours just comes with a simpler and the same thing. You can make that change really quickly by just right-clicking on the MIDI or audio track and click Save as Default MIDI track.
And that's a really useful trick. So you could set up a whole template like that, really. So last thing, or one of the last things we'll do is we set up all of our returns. So you'll see in the bottom right, we have our delays set up. We got our room verb, hall verb, plate verb, compression bus, which we'll get into a little bit, our drum bus, which we'll get into in a little bit. I don't think we'll talk about mastering this time, but maybe we could do another video for the EDM guys and talk about it a little bit.
But even then, we just have a master with some tools on it we'll look at maybe in this video.
We're pretty big on the concept of not doing a lot on the master. The master really should be just bringing it up to commercial volume levels rather than changing it a whole lot.
And these days also we get our music mastered by...
Suture. We use Wayne at Suture. He's awesome.
Yeah, but you can master your own music. We've done it before. We do it for our self-releases, but anything that's a big label, we just have someone else do it. So we try to just try not to think about it too much right now.
So the last thing we do is we have a Truth and Lies favorites folder. And since we're a duo, this helps us keep our sounds kind of consolidated in one place because splice can be pretty overwhelming. So we have folders for claps, crashes, effects, hats. And this is just samples that we've found over the last couple of years or whatever, and we've just used them a bunch, and it saves time from having to go into your other projects and moving the sounds over, copying them and whatever. So just having all the stuff that you like to use all in one place really helps a lot.
Yeah, another thing too is we do the same thing here with the collection. So we'll have like an EQ filter section. So we have our common things here we use, some compressors, some limiters, some stereo tools, some effects of things that we normally use for different things, distortion, saturation, and then we have our synth and noise creation here. So we can go through and quickly navigate, because, when you go through here, you can search for stuff, but it gets kind of insane when you look at how many plugins
you have to type it in every time. It's just not stuff that takes a lot of time in and of itself, but built up over the course of years and years, you could really save yourself hundreds of hours. So I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yep. Yeah. Let's get into...
let's make some music. All right, guys, so now we're going to get into writing the track. We always start off with making a nice drum loop, and then we build it out from there. So we'll start with the kick. Typically, it's like a 909, but we've also accumulated a bunch of other kicks that we like to use often. The noisy ones are pretty cool. Use some Marconite ones. So typically with kicks, we keep ours pretty short. I find that with really long kicks, it gets the track in general overall kind of messy, and it makes them more conflicting. It conflicts more with the bass when the kick is really long. So our rule of thumb is we'll keep our kicks to under a half a beat. So if you zoom in, Ryan, and show. So you see it ends at like one like in the end of the second beat. So.
And it's just the first kick, so we don't have to worry too much about it. We may change it as it goes. Let's start with clap now.
We're big on layering drums, so we'll often have 2 or even more samples stacked up, especially with drums and the main hats. So like the claps, we'll take one that's short and crispy, like crunchy, and then we'll take another one that's kind of longer and messier. And just once you add enough of these layers together, you don't have to compress them a lot or like saturate them a ton, because the layers are what really adds the beef to the sound. Looking for a nice long one now to layer over that. That one's good. Yeah, is that one of those Mark Knight claps? Yeah.
Just taking any extra reverb that's on this clap, because eventually we're going to add some stuff to it that's going to make the reverb probably sound a little bad.
Yeah, you don't want to, when we add our own processing later, sometimes the reverb that's already on the sample will conflict. So you can see on the right, we have the top group, and then underneath that, in that group is the clap group. So we have the middle clap, the wide clap, which adds some stereo width to it. And then we have the texture, which is what we just added here. So that's typical.
One of these sounds good. This sounds good.
Oh. Cool. So this one's going to be the wide clap. Cool.
And then we're going to just listen to the claps and level them out now.
Yep, sounds good. So typically we'll keep the middle clap the loudest, that'll be our main clap, and then the wider ones and the longer ones we turn down a little bit, just so they're sitting behind and not as apparent. We'll shorten the transients, which is what we just did there in the sample view on the bottom left. And if you click under preserve and go to transients, and then you go and you click the single arrow pointing to the right. What it does is it shortens the transients of your drums or sound, so that it just sounds a little shorter.
It's like Ableton's version of a gate for your drums. It's really great to clean up stuff that has long tails and something that doesn't sound good.
It works really well with drums. It's a trick we learned from a Nightmare video a bunch of years ago.
All right, that sounds good. Let's go on to the hats now.
Cool.
And honestly, this is the hardest part, is finding good samples. Because the rest of it, once you have an idea and you find good sounds and samples, the rest of it's pretty easy.
First one's kind of nice.
Let's go with it.
Just kind of loud.
Yeah, that's good. Let's go ahead and clean it up. Again, like the kick, we just try to keep them short enough so that we have a longer-ish one. We have something we can use to layer with.
I feel like so much of getting a house track clean is making sure your drums don't have a bunch of crazy extra frequencies and a bunch of crazy tails, because that's really going to have an effect on the rest of it. All right, got the boots and cats down.
Again, cleaning up the extra tail. I think this sounds too clean. I want to add another one.
Yeah, it was. You made it a little short too, I think.
Yeah, once we get more stuff, I think it'll sound better. We gotta get something that's a little dirty. Again, going back to this folder, it's so useful to just have stuff you use. I mean, we add this folder all the time.
That one's nice.
Yeah.
16. Just shorten it.
Yeah, really short.
So yeah, we'll pick ones that are like messier than what we want, and then kind of clean it up from there. Oh, sounds like a shaker too. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, just turn it down a little bit. We'll bring everything back up in a minute.
I would turn that one up. Yeah.
Maybe even shorter. Oh, we can turn it up a little bit. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's just make sure you get the right one.
Cool.
Now we're gonna add some more hats, something a little lighter for the left and the right.
That FG drum loop disco hat.
Just take.
It's a good third layer.
We don't need too much of it. We'll just take it and put it here. We'll turn it down a lot because we just need some stereo, because like in house music usually it's a lot about bass, a lot about your drums, and so layering your drums, getting them stereo is always a good idea. And you may not notice it at first, but like as you build it out and you add more elements and thicken things up, it makes a huge difference. It's really subtle at first, but
Well, it also makes a big difference at the club because a lot of the systems are sum to mono. So
Yeah.
when you have a couple of the top layers that are really sitting out in the stereo spectrum, it makes a difference.
that's a good one for the other side. Something like this. Shorten it really far.
For Ableton users, I'm not sure if you knew about it, but if you do the Command J, it
Consolidates it within the actual sample or the region you select.
yeah, it'll take whatever changes you've done to the sound and make that the bass sample. Cool.
Sounds good right now.
Just need a little top loop, and I think we're good to go.
I grab something from here.
Some people don't like using top loops. Personally, I just find that it saves so much time.
Yeah. The other thing too you can do with top loops is you'll see here I just use Command U with quantize, so it'll re-quantize this, and then we can swing it however we want later. The other thing it does really well is that you can help you shape it like this. So obviously that big long hat we don't really need, so we're gonna turn it down a bunch. That's good. Add this here.
Low end off of the drums, very important. When you have like 25 different drum layers and they all have a little bit of low end in it, it could be pretty overwhelming.
Let's get another loop to fill it out, some kind of other kind of loop. Nothing crazy, just like a loop. We're gonna do the same thing and take the same loop, re-quantize it. So if we want to do it later, we can swing it when we get to that point.
A lot of times we chop the whole loop up too and like move it around. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if we'll do that this time just because
Yeah,
we're trying to
for
get
time.
Yeah. A lot of high end.
A lot of high end. We only really want that low, good stuff. Also, there's some really funky stuff going on in the low end as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another EQ. We're just going to clean up the low end on that. Just get rid of some of the lows on the sides because
This is mid side here. Mid-side compression is important, and it's not very obvious in the beginning, but it is important, especially when you're stacking all your tracks up. And it's another good reason why, you should invest in some good studio headphones, because it could often be hard to hear on, on Rocket monitors inside an untreated room or whatever. It could be pretty difficult to hear that kind of stuff.
yeah. Also, the other thing too is it's just little changes as we go. We don't want to make too many big changes as we're going through this yet. Let's get a little tambourine loop. On this thing here. This is just a favorite, you know. Again,
Pretty simple tambourine loop.
same thing. We're probably not gonna use the whole loop just because we want it to be a little more consistent. So we'll use like 2 beats of it.
Again, the quantizing is really important so that you can have different, so that you could put different swing, or you could put the same swing on the different
And you can clean it up.
sample loops.
Right.
think you.
And loop at a good spot, but that's okay. So it sounds good, but again, if we can clean up, huge difference.
Yeah, put that back to 100. Listen to how clean that sounds. It's so much longer.
Go back here. All these little tails, each of these samples already have like reverb and stuff on them, so we don't really want to. We want to get it as clean as possible for us. This is pretty mono, so we're gonna let's do a little. And we have some stuff. If you have a Haas effect or anything like that, or some plugin to do that, you can use that. This is just a great option for us. It's immediate width, and we just don't need it very much. We just need to turn it down.
Haas effect is essentially a trick. It tricks your ears into thinking that the sound is stereo by making the sounds start at slightly different sound at different times, like just a couple milliseconds off. So it creates a stereo effect without it actually being panned.
Yeah, and you can do it a lot of things. We just use Ableton Simple A because it's the quickest and easiest. Plus, we already have something saved.
Do a little side chain. We use Volume Shaper.
There you go. Sounds good. So let's listen to how our drum loop sounds.
Yeah, it's still a little dull sounding, but there's no really group processing on it yet. It's funky enough though, like there's no huge gaps. So.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that we can just add a little bit to it right now. We have this little drum bus we have down here, which is just got some decapitator, some double lock on it. Before and after.
Yeah, it definitely adds some sauce to it.
It's still very mono. We'll pan some stuff and add some more layers as we go, but this is a good foundation to start for right now. So let's go to the bass now, because I think that's the next thing we're going to stick with. Let's go with some serum. We're heavy serum users for almost all of our basses. We use some other things too, but we just find that when you're going to make a bass, it doesn't need to be too, doesn't need to be too crazy, especially for tech house. All right, so let's,
a lot of tech house basses are just a sub. We typically put a layer over the sub.
That's good.
Like that.
Yeah.
Been big into these rolling bass lines recently.
Yeah. Let's listen to the drum loop. See what let's try to follow that. Like, let's turn all these other drums off for a second, except for these. It doesn't matter what key you write it in. We always can change it later.
We like writing an F. I don't know why.
F is a good key. E is a good key. Anything that has this low, rumbly kind of sound for tech house is good. You can always add stuff above it, but
you'll notice
if
you fuck around with the subs, you'll notice there is a sweet spot.
Yeah. Shorten these notes a little bit. Keep it simple for a second.
Honestly, this is where we spend the most time on our tracks, is writing the bass lines, because I'm pretty obsessive about like each and every note. And it's like a tough balance, because you really need to keep it simple for tech house. It's super important. But at the same time, too few notes and too little swing, and it's like, for me, it dies there in the second bar. So
yeah, it's not right yet.
Okay, getting there. Try doing the 16th note on the third beat instead of the second.
Yeah.
So it'd be on and. This is just us. We'll just mess around with. Yeah, we'll just mess around for a while with these notes. Keep it fairly simple. We typically won't even do more than like 3 or 4 different notes in the bass line.
Yeah, and it sounds really choppy still because it's not got the groove yet. There's no swing on it. There's no pitch bending, anything yet. It's a little funky still.
Excuse me. I think it needs like a couple more 16th notes.
Yeah.
Like bum bum ba-da-da-ba-dum. Bum, bum, ba-ba-da-ba-dum, bum. That's funky. And since there's a lot of notes there, you could take it easy in the 4th bar. Exactly. Yep. So depending on what you're trying to do with the song, oftentimes leaving an open beat or two in the fourth like section, like in the 4th bar or in the 4th beat, could be helpful for keeping your loop open for more sounds like one shots or vocals.
And usually a tech house bass line is really simple. It's 1 or 2 bars. You can have a 4 bar phrase, but rarely. Get a little space in between these notes. Just a little
Sounding
bit.
funky though, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, a little side chain, a little swing, it's going to sound really good.
I just realized I haven't had coffee today. That's terrible. Right now that kick is kind of destroying the mix, so I think you're hearing a lot of that.
This is the hardest relationship in L dance.
Oh
music.
yeah.
So we're gonna turn this down because I think it's a little loud.
That sounds better.
Yeah. Right now, and like this bass line sounds good. It needs a little sauce on it. So let's mess with the sound a little bit.
By the way, if you're having troubles with getting your kick sub bass relationship down, man, that's like one of the hardest parts of writing this stuff, so don't feel discouraged.
Yeah, and we're not going to really spend too much time now. We're just going to try to get a good sound on it now because the mixing stuff, we'll do some mixing now.
Yeah,
just
the,
like
the mixing is a whole another hour-long videos. We just want to mainly show you guys how we get an idea down here. Acidy.
No.
Nice.
So we'd like to separate our kicks and subs because it allows us to have a little more freedom with how we can really get this to really shine. The high end of the kick, high end of the bass needs to really come out in these tracks because there's nothing basically between 800 hertz and 1000 hertz, and even sometimes in this range.
That's where a lot of the meat of the sound lives, but it's also where a lot of other important things in the track are, so you gotta find a nice balance.
Yeah, and this area right here is usually pretty boxy, so not good stuff.
I think you might have ducked a little too much.
Yeah, well that's maybe a little here too.
There you go, yeah. So we got a nice bass layer, got a nice kick.
Yeah, let's get a little one more thing on here.
Okay, we're about 25 minutes in or so.
Yes. And honestly, doing the rest of it is gonna be easy once we get this sound right.
I think I mentioned it before, but what we do is typically rewrite either like a really solid 8 or 16 bar loop, and then we just write the rest of the track out from there.
sounds aggressive now, but we're going to turn the mix down. Sounds good. Let's go and shorten the notes a little bit. They're a little long. Now, let's get it a little more funky because it still feels a little flat. I think the sound maybe not be right yet, but at least we know that like the notes are kind of there, everything's kind of there. Just gonna add a couple swing things to our groove pool and try them out.
Typically never do more than 1635. So like 1615, 1625 are all good.
All right, drums back. It may be a little too plucky of a sound, so let's just turn the pluck on the bass down a little bit.
I mean, I don't think it's bad that it's that plucky on the top end of the bass. The sub should be less. There it is.
We're gonna get rid of some, last thing we'll do here before we move on, we're just gonna get rid of some of the stuff we just did on the high end. We don't really want anything really above this. So if you hear just this, it's right where your hats and your claps are kind of hitting, so it's just not something you really need. Alright, I think we have a good idea for our 8-bar loop already. Feels a little slow to me, so let's turn it up. Now let's add the other layers back in.
We don't go super crazy on the mixing while we're writing typically, but you have to do some while you go. Otherwise, I feel like it's hard to really hear the actual sounds that you're putting in otherwise if you don't do a little mixing as you go.
Yeah, you also have to know what your main element is, like, right? So if you're writing a tech house track and you want it to be the drums will be forward. I think this is probably more of a bass forward track, so bass needs to be up in the mix. Let's go back.
Okay, it's getting there. It doesn't even have a sub yet. It sounds pretty funky.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and add the swing to these now.
Oh my god, that's so much better already. Alright, starting to sound like a house track. I hear like a old school R&B vocal like looped over it.
Yeah.
Like some Biscuits type of thing, like hey, 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 hey.
We can do that. Let's do Splice, right? Splice. We'll go through some, there's probably some rave vocals in here.
The evolution.
Show me I don't
Can they hear this though?
I've got
Infinity space.
you know that I love you, baby. Ooh, to get down.
Let's take a chop of this and say.
Ooh.
It's in the wrong key. It doesn't matter because a lot of times you can just pitch it down.
Ooh.
That ooh sounds good.
Yes. So. May not be the right key. The easy thing is really the bass is in a different key, so. Alright, the bass is in F, this is in not the same key. There you go.
That sounds good.
Let's just change the performance a little bit. What we could do also, because this is really a little brittle, we can add a little altar boy, which can give us some low end on it. Just take the same sound.
We often mess with the formants, both on Alter Boy and also within the pitch engine on Ableton. I highly advise you try going into complex mode too and try fiddling around with the knobs on there because you can get some really interesting sounds. Also the end sounds good.
Yeah.
So you go like
Yeah, I can do. So let's take this down. Let's take this first one, put it here again.
yeah.
We got a little 2-bar loop. A little more on this.
Feels.
Alright, sounds good. Vocal needs some sauce.
Cool.
Let's get a little reverb.
Alright, I think it's time for a sub.
Yeah, so we're going to duplicate this sound. We're going to call this sub. All we're really going to do is basically take everything that's here.
And just flip it around.
Yeah, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to move around this stuff. We don't need too much of this stuff here. We're going to take this off. And we want to get it to sound clean, so we're going to spend just a little bit of time on it. Nothing crazy.
We use Serum for a lot of our basses. It's just like a thick sounding synth. There's a couple things I wish it did, but all in all, I really like Serum.
Let's make something that's kind of Subian. Stuff off. Give one more drive. This on here. We need to give the low end some real harmonics.
Give it some beef from the filter too.
Just even without this. On here, just a little pass on it. Okay, we don't want anything really up above here. Off and on.
Yeah, you definitely hear those tones down there.
Go back in here, fix one thing in here. So I don't think we need this little second oscillator because it's pretty much the same as the other one.
So when you solo the two basses together. Nice.
We obviously want to
It sounds like one sound, but it's not. I mean, it's like it's duplicated, but it's slightly changed.
Yeah, another thing too is that we can change a little bit more of the processing on here. We'll use a different mode of the decapitator. We'll crush it a little more, turn it down a little bit more. Another thing too is we got to make sure we sidechain it fully because this is the toughest part right here is getting this to sit right.
But like one of the tricks we do is you see how that sidechain that we're using is pretty much cutting it out for half of a beat. And you notice how the kick is also half of a beat. So
Yeah,
it's essentially the second that the kick ends, the bass starts.
As it tails end, yeah, you can see it would cut in.
It's like an inverse curve, yeah. The think the sub layer could be a little louder and the bass could be a little quieter.
Let's take this note out for a second and hear how it sounds with this too. Cool, that works. So the sub could come down, so let's go back.
And I think the sub could come up a little bit and the bass could go down. I hear the top layer a lot.
Yeah, I think there's also maybe a little too much low end here. Just duck this low.
Yeah, because really the point of that top bass is just to provide a little crunch. It's not to actually replicate any sub frequencies.
Let's go back here. The vocals still kind of sound like grainy up here.
They're a little high up. It feels like we could
Yeah, there's
a little alto
F.
boy them down or something like
Yeah,
that.
they're an F kind of. So if we move,
F-ish.
yeah, move this whole thing down. Again, like you got the trial and error, but you can take the whole MIDI clip and move it down 3 semitones. Maybe a little too low with these C's, so we'll have to find out.
It's like just on the cusp of being too low, but I don't think it's too rumbly. Yeah, you could always
Yeah, it's got to get a little more.
add a little more top end to it so
more
it's not
top.
getting
And then we
drowned.
can do it in the bass too. Is you can add in the sub. We can add another layer above. Just turn it down a lot. Awesome. So we got the vibe. Now we're how far are we in? We're quite a bit in now, and it took us a long time to get this far.
Yeah, we're more than halfway. We're like 35 minutes.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna build out a form. We're gonna just build it out. We're gonna build out how we would normally build out a form for a track. We write in what we're gonna do in each section. Kind of build it out. Go from there. So obviously we're writing a club track. So we're gonna go say intro. This will be basically be drums, no vocals. Take that out. I'm going to relabel this vocals for the time being. Add more stuff. All right, so we're going to do the same thing here. Probably what we'll do is take out the clap here. Yeah. Maybe even take out this there. Cool. So now we're gonna add a little add bass, maybe just a sub or just something low end here with the same drum loop, right? We're gonna go through and build the form out. We're not gonna try to rewrite the track yet or write the full track yet. We're just gonna build the form out. We're gonna go back and automate and make changes as we go. We're not gonna have any low end there. Now, because this is lower, I may have to turn this up a little bit. add this here. Probably add another element here. We'll go here and say vocal. So we have that. I'm gonna do it again. We call this the build. We call this the drop or groove section. So let's call it drop 1. Duplicate it again. And then we're gonna have a little like some kind of cooldown section.
All right, my bad. I'm back. I think one of my wife's friends just got engaged or something. Started screaming from the other room.
So do a cooldown here. Go back to this here. Or maybe we're gonna have to do a cooldown. We can just do like a.
I would just do a slightly longer build, do a 16-bar cooldown, and then another 8-bar build, so it's not the same as the first.
We can even make
You
it
don't need
shorter. We can make it cut this out
It's
here.
like you really don't need to reinvent the wheel. Typically, we have two like formats that we really like to use, which is 3 drops with shorter breaks in between, or 2 drops with a longer build/break section.
Yeah, it's all up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you, but oftentimes for us, at least, the deciding factor is how cool of a vocal we got. So if it's a really cool vocal and we want to play it more, we'll do 2 drops with a longer break. But yeah, it really depends. Like with a sample like this, I would say, probably not a huge long break, but
yeah, it's not the focal point of the track. It
exactly,
shouldn't be there. So we're gonna call this the big break. Here, we're gonna take out all the stuff here. We're gonna have just a kick, drum. We're gonna copy this over here. Cool. Again, this is all very flexible. We're not changing too much with the vocal here. We're just gonna add another build here. Make this one a little longer. Maybe add. So we're gonna do it about here. So drop 3. Do something like this. We're gonna copy this section. And then maybe change this up a little bit here at the end of it. Do it one more time. We're going to add these outro drums here. Swap this here.
So this is why we write the loop first, because you essentially have everything minus like one shots and stuff like that written, and you don't need to go into each section and be like, okay, here I want to add this and here I want to add this. You're just copy and pasting what you already have into different areas. So with the full loop, you saw how easy it was to write the intro, because all you had to do is just take the kick and sub out, and then 16 bars into the intro, you add the bass, leave the sub, the build, it comes back out again, you add a snare loop. So it's like,
yeah, it's also, this is the most important part of a track, right? This is the part where you groove, you get the feeling, all that stuff. And so you have to spend the most time on this part, right? It's just always what it is. You end up spending the most time on this and the vocals. So since we're not having any original vocals, we're not going to spend that much time on it right now. We're just going to try to make this sound really cool and try to get from here to here, sound good, and take some elements and move it around. How much time do we have left? Let's see.
we've been doing about like 45 minutes.
Okay, let's get some more. see. We need some kind of like. Cool, that's good. So we just need to get something to fill out this section here. We're gonna go here and. All right, now we have that loop we already have. It sounds really good. We just want to make it so it's not as loopy. Yeah. Sounds good. Let's get one more thing here. I think that we usually a lot of these houses, again, we like 909 sounds.
909 is so just like juicy.
So we get a snare. Honestly, there's just one that we always go to. Great sample. Shout out to Luca Lush. Such a great sample.
Formerly Vonzi.
Right here to fill out that last beat. It's gonna be really loud, so let's turn it down. Again, it's just to fill it out, give it some
Make
variation.
it a nice little build.
Alright, it's not got the swing on it, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do this here. Sounds good. In order to get things to swing like in a loop, you have to click on it and add a transient. So you can do Command Shift I on Mac, or you can just click on it and click Insert Transient where this Delete Transients button is. And we're gonna go here, put it in our beats, forward, here. Shorten it. Alrighty, perfect. We're gonna copy that and do it every other bar.
This is another tough part, man. It's like hard to know when you should put like one shots and when you should put drum samples in there. If you listen to a lot of the house guys right now, like John Summit and Weston and all them, they do a lot of like one shot drum samples.
Yeah, it's always good to use a combination of loops and samples because you can get some really good sounding main hi-hats by layering things, and you can get some really great like floor noise and like weird shakers and stuff from the loops.
You don't want you want your stuff to sound exactly like everybody else's by using the exact same loops.
Yeah.
It's like a good way to.
There we go. Something like that.
Ooh, they yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's again, same thing as before. We're gonna lock this guy up here. This one didn't catch, so we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go here. Sounds
Looks
good.
like we're doing a lot, but like we're really not. The truth is we're kind of just cutting the ends of the sounds off, putting some sidechain on it, saturating them all a little bit, and then that's pretty much it. Just bringing them up to level. It's really not a lot of work.
All right, that already sounds way more interesting because now the drums are taking over in the spaces that's not there. It's not the same as this loop that was here. Now we just need to go ahead and get it over here. We can do other things here in a second when we get to this part here, like use this vocal sample or another synth. There's our idea.
I think we should do the build.
Yeah, let's go to the build now.
Do a little build, and then we don't have too much time.
Yeah.
Ooh, they get down. Ooh, they get. 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 Ooh, they get down. Ooh, they get.
if you don't need effects or anything to get there, and it still sounds like it flows, that's what it is. You only need the effects and the extra little things, just so that you can get to the point where it has more tension. If it sounds musically good,
If
we
you're
don't mess with
relying
it.
on those sounds in order to switch sections, then
Yeah.
there's probably something up with the arrangement.
Yeah, and it's just all about having a quality vibe, thinking about how it feels more than how it sounds, all that stuff. All right, we needed like we have this great big white noise pack, great for this section. Just gonna pull it out. We're gonna throw in some effects here. Here for a second. I call it a riser. We're just trying to get a little bit of some motion. Again, this is just a supplemental sound. It's not going to make this sound any better. Probably a little too quiet, but you get the idea. We want more high in it. We don't want this stuff that's down here. We want this stuff here. It's kind of boring as it is because it's just single white noise. So what you can do something like this where you can auto pan it, speed it up as it goes a little bit. Again, up until now we have done almost no automation because it's really about just trying to get the whole vibe of it right. The automation is what really brings the track fully together.
A lot of times our tracks take 2 days to write, and it'll be, or at least like 2 sessions, like 2 couple-hour-long sessions, and a lot of it will be the first session is getting down in a basic idea, like what we did tonight, and the second session is doing some mixing and then adding of one-shots, adding of effects, doing automation to get stuff sounding a little less looped.
Yeah, just this little bit right here. Little automation.
They put a snare,
Yeah,
snare
some
riser on
quieter.
top of that.
Yeah, some
snare
kind of
roll.
like. Let's go to splice again. Let's go to loop. See if we have one already made. Again, you don't have to. You can write it with all the snares you want. We met a lot like this. We can go back and write it, but nah, it doesn't fit. It's okay. When in doubt, go to your favorites. Again, like let's go here. Good sound, but we're going to shorten it a little bit. Already is. One thing you can do here is, as it's going, that looks good. We're gonna do. It's a little too long. Right, we don't want it to be. Right now, it just sounds like more white noise. It doesn't sound like it has some thump to it. Doesn't give it like a little bit of groove. Already sounding good.
Kind of
Let's
slams in there. I like it.
Yeah, let's give it a little more.
Little movement.
Yeah, a little, again, like a little gain automation. Start it quieter.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Sounds
It's
good.
almost there now. So you need a couple more transition elements we like to use. Again, like crash cymbals. You know,
That's a good one. Just have to shorten it.
yeah. Or put like a little delay on it. Let's put it down here. It doesn't need to be. Again, it's not a main element, so it can be quiet. So.
Ooh, they get down. Ooh, they get. 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 Ooh, they get down. Ooh, they get.
Again, we're just gonna go through here, pull this out. Again, another. It's just trying to make the sections kind of a little bit.
Ooh, they get down. Ooh, they get. Ooh, they get down. Ooh, they get. Ooh, they get down. Ooh, they get. Ooh, they get down. Ooh, they get.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, so this is kind of like almost this is almost like where we typically end off on the first day. Give ourselves a little break around the ear after you've heard the song 60,000 times in the last hour. It's hard to tell whether it's good or not.
Yeah. We'll come back and reevaluate these vocals. We'll come back and reevaluate the bass lines, everything. We'll come back and reevaluate it. It's always good to come back. So let's spend like the next little bit of time.
Pause the recording.
All right, so now we've kind of written an idea of the track again. Let's just listen to what we have from here through about here, because this is the most important part of the track. Again, we didn't build an entire track 100% from scratch, but we got the basic idea down. We come back again another day, listen to it. Let's listen to what we have so far.
Ooh, they get down. Ooh, they get. 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 Ooh, they get down. Ooh, they get.
So that's it right there. We just did
Yeah, man.
Tech House track in an hour, kind of our style. Hope you all thought it was enjoyable. We had a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah, EDMProd, we love you guys. We've been watching your stuff for years, so it's just nice to be doing stuff with y'all again. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, always feel free to hit us up. We're more than happy to help. We love to chat with you guys.
Yeah. You can follow us on all of our socials at TruthXLies Music on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook,
All that good stuff.
all that good stuff.
Follow EDMProd.
Yeah,
They're awesome.
Definitely follow the EDM Prod. They're
We
the
love
best.
those guys. All right, yo. Thanks so much for joining us.